In my industry, it's a thing
All
about
right.
computers.
We're gonna go ahead and start.
Yay.
How we looking up there?
Background.
Oh no.
What else?
You said we're gonna go ahead and start.
And I said,
it
yay.
flashes to your background.
And I'm like, oh.
There's some really tall, like, people. That's not proportionally accurate.
So no, it's not. It's AI. So
AI is never proportionally accurate.
So, he's like Goliath. Jesus is like Goliath, Paul.
compared to the Roman
Yeah,
soldiers,
I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not quite that big, but
You know those Roman soldiers
and the
are
Roman
actually
soldiers-
Hebrews.
And the Roman soldiers are actually closer to the camera, so he's even bigger than you're thinking.
Yes, I know.
It's
massive.
no, it's not AI. It's just for perspective.
For perspective, the people closer should be even bigger than. They're small, lean, and small.
He's 3 foot tall.
Yeah, they probably. It's like Gulliver's
They're
Travels.
hobbits.
It's like Gulliver's Travels. Did they?
You know, honestly, I didn't critique it that much until y'all said something.
Sorry, I'm an AI hater, so I'll
Brother,
bring
you're
that
a
back.
hater in general.
Am I?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, for sure. Yeah, I can bear that.
You're losing in Magic the Gathering.
Yes, I'm absolutely a hater.
Boo! You can't.
Okay.
That's what you're
By the third counter spell,
Alright.
kind of.
So where we left off last week, we went through and we talked about how Jesus was mocked. We went through kind of some things we went from the Praetorium all the way to Golgotha, which is a place of the skull. We discussed where the possible locations are. We discussed the mode of execution, meaning the crucifixion, in that he would have carried what they would have called the patibulum, which would have been the crossbeam to go on the already fixed cross at Mount Calvary. So, that being said, I think it was just, 0.38, 0.37 of a mile or something like that, that he would have carried that cross. And we kind of went over some of that stuff. We went over the imagery associated with the mocking, the scourging, the crown of thorns, how it can be seen as a picture of the sin curse being placed upon Jesus, as thorns are a direct result of sin.
What is squeaking?
I think the table itself. Table likes to squeak. There's a mouse on the table.
Sounds or crickets.
I named him Mickey. Okay. All right. So Simon of Cyrene was made to carry the cross, and we know when you read later on, he was the father of Alexander and Rufus, and at that point they had been. It's testimony that moment in time changed his life, and his family's life. Because he got. Could you imagine being compelled to carry a man's cross who you do not know? You know what you've heard, you know what you've seen. You're with your family, and you're pulled out the crowd, and you're told to carry a condemned man's cross. Well, he did that, and at that point, he had been at Calvary and witnessed everything that Jesus had went through, and that changed his life. We talked about how Jesus reached Golgotha and refused the numbing drink, where I think it's Luke or John that says that it was a little wine mixed with myrrh. Matthew calls it. What did Matthew call it?
Vinegar and gall.
Vinegar and gall. Yeah, and so that would have, like I said, been a numbing drink that he would refuse because he knew what he was going into. He took all the pain that he could have, and they crucified him. So point number 1 on your sheets. I'm going to try to do better about this time and actually talk you through your sheets. Jesus is crucified. So let's take a look here at the passage today, and just kind of look out for these things. Jesus is crucified. Jesus between 2 thieves, the sign above Jesus, and Jesus is mocked. Those are the 4 things that we're talking about today. Matthew chapter number 27, verses 35 through 44. The Bible says, and they crucified him and parted his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. They parted my garments among them, and upon my vesture did they cast lots. And sitting down, they watched him there. And set up over his head his accusation written, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Then were there two thieves crucified with him, one on the right hand and another on the left. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads, and saying, Thou that destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. Likewise also the chief priests mocking him with the scribes and elders said, He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God, let him deliver him now. For if he will have him, for he said, I am the Son of God. The thieves also which were crucified with him cast the same in his teeth. And that's where we're going to get through tonight. We're going to stop there. So the first thing we see here is that Jesus is crucified. Now, what's interesting here is none of the Gospels give a direct explanation of what crucifixion is, because the people that were reading this originally would have known exactly what the method of crucifixion was. There was no argument as to how people died. It was obvious. It was something that people were there, that they could recognize, that they feared, hanging on a tree. And so Matthew says it plainly. He just says, and they crucified him. John 19:23 and 24 explains that 4 soldiers divided the garments and cast lots for his coat. And notice that the soldiers were not trying to fulfill prophecy. But if you look in Psalm 22, if you go there with me, and you look in Psalm 22 tonight, I almost said this morning. There's a couple things here that are fulfilled here. You can go through Psalm 22 and just keep going. It's got a lot in it, but specifically, verses 17 and 18. If you look up before that, you could read more. But he says, I may tell all my bones, and that they look and stare upon me. They part my garments among them and cast lots upon my vesture. This is just in direct fulfillment of Psalm 22. A psalm that was written about Jesus.
So what the answer is 22?
Prophecy is the answer, right?
Soldier divided his garments by casting lots.
No, the next one.
This 22:18. Yeah, Psalm 22:18.
Yeah, but what's the blank?
The blank.
22:18.
No,
No.
the verse is after the blank. What's in the blank?
This fulfilled Psalm's prophecy.
This fulfilled Psalms what?
It's filled Psalm 22:18.
But then it says Psalm
This-
22:18.
Why does he have the
I
answer
understand the
behind
line.
it?
So he gave you the answer.
I gave you the answer on accident.
Copy that.
Okay,
Shouldn't the answer just be
I'm
prophecy?
writing prophecy.
that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Also, what about the first blank that made the point?
And they crucified him.
But he stayed there to say blank.
Me and you.
Oh, sinners.
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 Thank you.
I told you I was going to do better at this time.
All
I
those
lied.
would be me.
I am not.
So
good
there,
at this.
the thing is, there are, on some of these questions, there's several different ways you can answer them, but as long as you cover the thought.
If you can cover the thought, then you've understood the passage.
Yeah.
So, as long as it's not something super far off and Calvinist, then we're good.
Calvinist.
We're Catholic. But,
Just call him out.
He stayed there to save the elect.
okay,
You know what?
we're going to excommunicate you. That was the next blank, by the way. Wes is gone. No. All right, so the soldiers divided his clothes by casting lots. Psalm 22:18 had already described what they would do. The soldiers sat down and watched him. Could you imagine that? Right after they did what they did, they just sat there. They were proud of themselves. They'd already gotten what they wanted out of it. They sat there and they watched Jesus on the cross.
Can you imagine, there was many years ago, I don't know if it's still around, there was a video series that you could check out in the video store. It's called Faces of Death. And Faces of Death was video of live executions. People, either caught inadvertently on camera or intentionally. And I watched this and I thought to myself, it looks better on TV. And it occurred to me that I had seen so many things in movies that I was numbed to the reality. And these guys were numb to this. This was their job. This is what they did.
What do you really expect them to have done? It was their job.
Yeah, that was their job. But you got to get to that. Like as they are, since that is their job, it's going to become second nature to just sit there and watch. I mean, that just is what it is. For me and Hoyt, working in a live panel probably isn't nothing. But for the average homeowner, the average person, they were scared of electricity. But I'll wear my metal ring in there all day long because I know I don't know that I'm not going to slip.
This
But
is
it's tough.
This is no big deal. All you gotta do is cut the main off and just do everything you gotta do.
And some homeowners don't know that, and we still do it hot. But
Let me give you an example. When I was 17, I had a job after high school, I left at noon and I went to work at the state and I went to the health department. And the department that they put me in was the health department, and the department cataloged every cancer patient in the state of Alabama. And every month they got reports of your name, everybody that had cancer, and what the updated diagnosis was. Well, I started there in January. By the time March rolled around, I wasn't getting upset about it anymore. I mean, because you're seeing babies with cancer, you're seeing reports about children, and you just have to numb yourself in order to keep typing it in the thing that makes the microfiche, And I'm sure that's what they did. But we
The
know
only
what
thing-
happened with the Centurion later.
yes, and that is one of the few that are written that changed there. That we know of, but it very possibly could have. There could have possibly been a lot more than just that one.
Yeah, we don't
Yes,
know.
but if they had publicly proclaimed it, they would have probably been killed.
Yes, and see, that's the other thing that I think about is their normal job. They're putting people on the tree that were thieves, that were murderers, that were people that deserved it. If any of them had been there through the trials, because honestly, Roman centurions, Roman soldiers, they wouldn't have really cared who was on trial. Their job was to be there and crucify. So they would have been what would have been, a unopinionated party, unbiased party, right? They would have been able to probably see through the Jews' hate and say that Jesus was innocent. And that may have been,
So they saw orders.
they had orders, right? But that could have been planting the seed as well in some of their hearts. That hey, this guy's different than the rest of the people that we've tried. And they could have seen that at the beginning of the trials. Never know, but that's just thought. Something here that I want to talk about is what crucifixion did to the body. So, one thing that we know is that Matthew, as mentioned earlier, does not give a description. None of the Gospels do of what crucifixion was.
We'll get to it.
So, no, remember that Jesus was already in a state of he was bleeding out, his body was torn to shreds. He had to have been in shock, absolutely. Them suspending him over and hanging there, he put severe strain on his shoulders, his arm, his chest. Every time that he would need to try to get air, you would have to push up on the nails that were holding your feet in to try to just breathe. Breathing and speaking became increasingly exhausting. Shifting or pushing upward increased the pain in the feet and the legs. Blood loss, dehydration, trauma, and shock added to the strain. So everything compounded on what Jesus had to go through. It wasn't just he got up there and he suffocated. No, he got up there and he suffered repetitively. It got worse as it went on and on. The more that he strained, the worse it got.
This was typically a 3-day deal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So they broke their legs to get him in the ground in time.
Because
Sabbath.
they had the Sabbath coming out.
Yep. And because they couldn't have anybody hanging there during the Sabbath, right? Well, during
I don't know if that was a deal or they couldn't be part of it,
that. Yeah, okay.
and they wanted to be part of Jesus dying.
Nobody can hear you.
So
You're talking like bad ear.
basically, during this week, are you talking about the Passover?
Yeah.
Passover.
So,
Passover before this because him riding it on the donkey was in relation
Yeah.
to Passover, right?
yes. But this would have been what would have been called?
High holy days. where you
Yeah,
had
the Feast of the
multiple-
Unleavened Bread. Is that what it is? I can't remember the technical term, but it is a holy week in Jerusalem.
Well, didn't they,
Yeah.
weren't they getting all the leaven out of the house for the feast?
Yeah.
Supposed
So basically, that week would have started. I have on one of my other power calendar. That week being a holy week, they would have had 2 Sabbaths. They would have had the Saturday